in Washington, D.C., Melbourne, and Tokyo. Now he lives in the best neighborhood in SF, the Tender Knob. A graduate of Wesleyan University, he played three sports his freshman year. He is currently editor-in-chief at 14 Hills.
Thanks, Kendra. Thanks for having me, VelRo. It's a great thing to be here today. I'm going to read to you guys from a short story, the most recent thing I wrote. We're going to pick it up halfway through. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of background on what's happened, so we're not totally lost. I have two main characters, Katie and Steve. Basically, Steve has kind of a crush on Katie from back in the day. And they're high school now, but they've always just been friends. And Katie's really never noticed Steve. They just always sort of had this very innocent kind of 90s friendship, high school thing going, right? But everything's about to change because this other guy comes into the picture, and Steve catches Katie and this new guy kind of hooking up in the school bathroom. And the guy's older, he doesn't go to their school, and Steve obviously isn't very happy about this. And what else should I tell you? So they make a plan to escape. Katie's gonna run away with this guy and just gonna be gone forever. And Steve is just horrified that Katie's about to disappear from his life for good. So he invites them over to his house just as a way to sort of keep her around for a little bit longer while he sort of figures out how he can make it so they don't run away, because his parents are out of town. So then just basically it's debacle. And the guy doesn't even have a name, Steve doesn't even know who this guy is. Alright. The stranger and Katie arrive at Steve's house a little after 5 o'clock. Steve's cat, Morton, is resting on the divan. Katie laughs at Steve and tells him it's just a stupid couch. But Steve's mother insists that it's a divan. These things confuse him. "Nice digs," says the stranger. He walks over to the mantel and begins picking up pictures of Steve's family, looking at them closely and then putting them back down. "Nice looking family, little man." Katie is looking through Steve's refrigerator. "Got any booze?" "Yes," says the stranger, "I'm thirsty." Steve has never touched the stuff. He's watched his dad for too many years return from work and make himself a tall glass of scotch. His father dressed in a starched white shirt and wearing one of the ties his mother bought him for Christmas, always fixing the drink and heading into the den, folding himself into his easy chair and watching the news. Depressed, his mother once said to his father, when Steve was upstairs, supposedly asleep. And Steve has never forgotten his father's response. "Yes, my dear," he had said, as if depression was the most natural state in the world. "My dad's an alcoholic. I think my mother locks the liquor away with a key so that he can't get at it." They aren't listening to him. It's as if he's already receded into his father's place in the house. Sort of a useless bag of bones. "I'm just decoration," his father had yelled at his mother one particularly awful Thanksgiving dinner. "Found it," says the stranger. He's holding a bottle of scotch above his head. Triumphant. "Let's do some shots." The stranger arranges 3 shot glasses in a neat row on the kitchen counter. He pours the glasses full of scotch to the brim. They spill over the edge, a little bit, and the stranger is laughing. His laugh sounds mean. It's the laugh of a person who doesn't mind stirring things up, a person like Steve's father. Katie is digging her hands through Steve's mother's candy bowl. She chooses a peppermint patty and wraps the silver foil and bites into it. Steve watches her tongue work the chocolate into her mouth. He makes a silent wish that someday Katie will notice him, and someday they will fall in love. Outside the quiet dark, the street lights have come on, and one of his neighbors has a fire going. The air in Steve's house has the faint smell of burning wood and leaves. Katie looks cold, goosebumps freckle her arms. Steve's parents rarely use heat, so he hasn't bothered with the thermostat. He considers going down to the wood pile, stacked against the house, and starting a fire. That's what his mother would do if she were here. It's just about the only thing they do as a family anymore. They sit around the fire, and Steve reads school textbooks. His mother reads gossip magazines, and his father drinks scotch, a blanket wrapped over his legs. The stranger has also noticed that Katie is shivering. "Here you go, babe, this will warm her insides." He hands her this shot of scotch. And here you go, little man, handing Steve a shot glass. Steve holds it and watches as Katie and the stranger gulp their shots. This is stupid, he thinks, but he doesn't say it. He knows better. Instead, he takes the shot, puts it to his lips, closes his eyes as he's seen people on TV do, tips his head back, and pours the thing down his throat. The burning sensation is immediate. His shoulders tense and he fights his body. Every atom, every particle of him doesn't want the liquid that he's just swallowed. If they weren't here, he would immediately go to the bathroom and throw up. But instead he holds it down, and after the fire subsides, his insides do feel a little warmer. His body relaxes. He feels a little less tense. Damn, little man, your pops looks the good stuff. Steve doesn't know what makes it good, but he knows that his mother always yells at his father for spending so much money on scotch. It's probably expensive. The three of them sit on the couch, and the stranger turns on the television. He flips through the channels on demand until he finds the right horror movie. They begin watching House of a Thousand Corpses. The stranger is gushing about how realistic the violence and the gore are. He tells them to love it. His words tumble from his mouth. Steve returns to the image of his father sitting where the stranger now sits. Any other time would be his father getting overexcited about some movie that his mother would be forced to sit and watch with him. His father discussing low film angles and complicated plot twists, rehashing the things he learned in 1 or 2 film classes he took as an undergrad before he settled in as a business major. Rob Zombie really knows how to cut up a girl, says the stranger. You get tired of the bed and torture her. Take pictures while you slice her, so you can have them forever. That's why this movie is so amazing. The camera doesn't move away from the torture shots. It actually gets closer, so the viewer can see exactly how much pain the girls are going through. Steve notices that Katie does turn away. She's never liked horror movies. The video games they play aren't as graphic as this. She looks up the diaphanous curtains and stares for a moment out to the street. It was only a day ago they were sitting together in SAT class, Katie sitting at an old wooden desk, taking notes, watching the teacher, Steve watching her. Kids doing what kids are supposed to do. The bushes outside the windows moved, rustled by the cold winds, branches scratching against glass. Again, Steve's mother's voice asking when his father will put down the scotch and take care of the yard work. It's only recently that Steve can sit in this room alone and not be terrified by the scraping of branches against windows. He always felt they were never safe inside the house, even with the door locked. There was something lurking out there, watching them, waiting for the right moment to break through the glass and comfort him. On the TV, there is the image of a girl in a bunny costume. She is running through a field of crosses. The image is spliced with that of a man with long hair and a gun, shouting, "Run, rabbit, run." The girl is terrified, running for her life, and Steve knows that she has no chance of surviving. He doesn't hold out hope for her. None of the other girls have survived so far. It's just a matter of how she will die. The stranger is watching the movie, his eyes wide, his hand massaging Katie's thigh under the blanket. Steve can see the blanket move back and forth. He wishes he could kill the stranger as easily as the girls are dying in the movie. The movie ends. Katie is asleep, her head resting on the stranger's lap. The stranger has finished most of the bottle of scotch. Steve's father will be furious with him, but then again, maybe he won't. His temper has been erratic of late. If Steve's lucky, his father might not realize that a full bottle of scotch has been reduced to a half bottle. Probably wishful thinking, but if this is the worst thing that happens to the stranger at his house, Steve is okay with that. Well, says the stranger, I guess it's time for some shut-eye. Which room should we take? Steve has had plenty of time to think about this. Take my room, he says. The stranger carries Katie to his room, and Steve takes his parents' bed. In the 16 years he's lived in the house, this is the first time he can remember sleeping in their bed. It's an old brass thing, and the mattress is old too. He sinks into it and thinks about his mother clipping coupons and scouring the newspaper for discounts. She's been talking for years about getting a new mattress, and now Steve can understand why. It feels lumpy, hard in some places, soft in others. He recalls a man in a tie on television selling brand new mattresses at low, low prices. The man in the tie talking fast about the life of the mattress. They should be replaced every 7 to 10 years. Dust and dead skin build on mattresses, and then dust mites feed on the dust and the dead skin. And these mites are microscopic, but when there are tens of thousands of them living in a mattress, that's no good. The mattress must be at least 20 years old. Steve lies there staring at the ceiling. The wallpaper is peeling around the edges of the room, brown marked water damage that his father hasn't bothered to fix. For the most part, the ceiling is fine, only in need of a paint job. But there are places where the wallpaper is peeling away in chunks. Steve feels jealousy and anger move through his blood and out toward his hands. His head feels hot. He's an idiot for letting the stranger into his house. Steve pulls the cover off of him and gets out of bed. Morton stretches and licks Steve's hand. His whiskers are long. Steve runs his hand along Morton's gray hair. He scratches his ribs. Morton purrs, and on any other night, Steve would feel reassured and head back to bed. Instead, he lands lightly on the floor. He walks silently toward the door and pauses and twists the doorknob. It squeaks a little. No mistaking it. His bed is also squeaking. He can hear Katie's moans, and he can hear the stranger cough, no doubt from the cigarettes he was smoking earlier. The whole situation is fucked. Steve's ears are ringing with the quiet of the house. The stranger is fucking Katie in his bed.